What's up everybody, Brett Medlock here. Today I wanted to talk about the Nintendo 64 Classic Edition. Obviously this is not announced officially by Nintendo. There's a lot of people suggesting that it's real and a bunch of rumors that it's going to happen, considering some trademarks and stuff that Nintendo made. And if Nintendo continues the same annual release of going through their old classic platforms, this makes a bunch of sense. Obviously the Nintendo 64 would be a huge deal. But yeah, so I wanted to jump into 10 games that I think would be perfect for having on this platform. I might do a part 2 to this video because there's probably going to be more than 10 games that release on it, but I thought first off I'd get through my favorite games. These are my personal games that I would want on the Nintendo 64 Classic, and they would actually make a lot of sense to release on it. So let's jump in with my number one, which is, of course, this one. I might as well put these two games together: Zelda Ocarina of Time and Zelda Majora's Mask. The numbers 1 and 2 on this list. And these games, of course, if a Nintendo 64 Classic came, they would have to come. These are well-known, critically praised, amazing titles. And for me personally, I love Ocarina of Time. It's the game that got me into video games. I beat it when I was like 6 years old, and I could barely read, and my brother helped me out. But it was an amazing experience, and I've played it dozens of times since then. It ages like a fine wine. It's one of the best games, and one of my personal favorite games of all time. And of course it's going on this list. And with Majora's Mask, we got more of what we loved, we got more of what we wanted, and it had such a unique twist on it, with the time mechanics where you had to beat the game within 3 days and you collect these masks, and just the whole world was so mysterious, and it didn't really feel like any other Zelda game that you had ever played. It had more of a mature tone to it, and I loved it for that. I enjoyed that game immensely. I actually didn't end up playing Majora's Mask on 3DS, and I really need to get to that because I loved Ocarina of Time, the remake on 3DS. But I have my fingers crossed that Nintendo will release those two games on the Switch. But if they don't do it within the next couple years or so, I'm just going to end up getting it on 3DS because I'm itching to play that game again. So yeah, Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, amazing titles, but you already know that, so I might as well not even keep talking about them any longer. My number 3 spot would have to go to Starfox 64. This is, in many people's opinions, still the best Star Fox game to date. It seems like the series really hit its stride right in this point in time and hasn't really surpassed it ever since then. Of course, we got the 3DS remake, which is better, but that's still the same game. But as for the other games like Star Fox Dinosaur Planet or Adventures, whatever you want to call it, and then Star Fox Assault, and then there was a DS release, I can't remember what that was called, but a Command. So those games just didn't really ever surpass Star Fox 64. It's one of the best games on Nintendo 64, and it's, in my opinion, the best of the series. But don't get me wrong, I personally really love Star Fox Adventures. I know that game gets a lot of hate, but Star Fox 64 is just so good. The gameplay is fantastic. The iconic do-a-barrel roll was in this game, and it's just so awesome. I'm sure you would agree that it would make perfect sense to put this on the Nintendo 64 Classic Edition. The 4th game on my list is another, definitely, of course, why wouldn't it happen? And it's the amazing, the unforgettable Super Mario 64. What an amazing game. This is a game that even as a kid I thought about all day at school, about how I couldn't wait to get home and play this game. It was the first time we saw Mario in a 3D fashion, and it was just an incredible experience from beginning to end. Similar to Ocarina of Time, the N64 is where we finally got them 3D polygonal graphics, and though they haven't aged wonderfully, Nintendo's titles specifically used an artistic art direction, and they actually don't look too bad for being on platforms like that. If you ever notice, N64 games, if they're developed by Nintendo, they aged way better than the realistic games that were on PS1 and even N64. This next one though might not be on your list specifically, and that game is Pokemon Stadium. We had gotten the releases on Game Boy, and the world fell in love with this Pocket Monster series. I have so many memories with Pokemon on Game Boy, but that's not what I'm talking about today. Pokemon Stadium was pretty much what you envisioned was happening on the screen whenever you were playing the games on Game Boy Advance. You got full-blown 3D Pokemon models attacking each other, and there's an announcer. It's really cinematic feeling, especially for an N64 title. It used really similar battle mechanics to the Game Boy title, so you already knew what you were getting into, and it was just a really fun and really challenging game. Pokemon is a series that I've held near and dear to my heart ever since inception, pretty much. And it was along with Ocarina of Time, is what really got me into video games. So I really love Pokemon Stadium, and I played it so much as a kid that I would just love to have it on this list. Now what's really, really unfortunate is that this next one is probably not going to happen, which would be just so awful, and it's that GoldenEye 007 is probably not going to come to the N64 Classic if the N64 Classic is a real thing, because of some licensing issues and a bunch of stuff surrounding the IP, the fact that Nintendo doesn't own it and that Rare developed it. And honestly, I can't even really remember who owns the 007 franchise, but apparently this could never happen, and from all the stuff I've read online, it's just not going to happen, which would suck because everyone envisions the N64 Classic. You buy it, it comes with 4 controllers, and you're playing frickin' GoldenEye with 3 of your friends locally, and it just brings back so many nostalgic memories for so many people, and I just could not imagine if they didn't get this game. But honestly, I wouldn't put it past Nintendo to try their hardest to get this title because of the fact we got Starfox 2 on the SNES Classic, and that's a big deal. Like, that's crazy. Like, we never got that game officially in the US, and it was awesome just to get it finally and play it for the first time, even though it was an old title. Nintendo probably went through a lot of effort to get that title on the SNES Classic. I'm sure they would do the same thing on the N64 Classic with GoldenEye, but I guess only time would tell. Now, speaking of 4-player local multiplayer, I can't go without mentioning Mario Kart 64. Everyone loves this game. Like, this is one of the best party games out there. It brings back so many memories for a lot of people, and even though like the latest Mario games, in my opinion, they're better than Super Mario 64, there's something about playing Mario Kart 64 that just brings back so many memories for me with my family, with my brother, and just thinking of that game honestly reminds me of people I don't even have really relationships anymore. It just makes me want to reach out to them and say, you know what, let's get together and play some Mario Kart 64 like old times. This would definitely be on the platform if it ends up being real, like without a doubt. And the last amazing party game on my list goes to Super Smash Bros. Like, of course this game would be on the list. Now, everyone knows that Super Smash Bros. Melee did pretty much everything better than the original Super Smash Bros. But Super Smash Bros. Was still awesome. It's still a great fighting game, especially for the time. No one expected to be able to see all of your favorite Nintendo characters beat the living crap out of each other. And I cannot even finish this video without mentioning that amazing trailer that I'm just going to show right now. Just watch this short clip of this awesome trailer.
Me and you and me, no matter how they toss the dice, it had to be the only one for me is you. Happy together.
Something's gone wrong in the happy-go-lucky world of Nintendo. Introducing Super Smash Bros., where all your favorite characters go toe-to-toe in one 4-player star-studded slam fest, only on Nintendo 64.
It's just amazing. Simple as that. The game's amazing. It's so much fun with friends and family, and it would definitely be on my list, and it would definitely be on the N64 Classic. Now, the final one I wanted to put on this list is definitely not going to happen because of the fact that it's a rated M title, and that is Resident Evil 2. You may not even remember that this game did actually launch on N64. It had more popularity on PS1, but it was actually the biggest game, like megabytes-wise, on the N64, which ironically it was 64 megabytes. Can't believe that's the largest game on N64, 64 megabytes. That's crazy that we were able to fit such big games on smaller carts back then, like, wow. But anyway, Resident Evil 2, I love this game. I love Leon Kennedy. I love Claire Redfield. I cannot wait for the remake that's coming out later this year, or early next year on PS4 and Xbox One. And I wish that game would come to Switch, but it probably won't because of graphical limitations and whatnot. But I know they could get it running. They just say they can, but I know they can. But yeah, I absolutely love Resident Evil 2. Like, if you know me, I've made a ton of Resident Evil videos on this channel, on the PlayStation Enthusiast channel, and it's just an amazing series in my opinion, and Resident Evil 2 is one of my favorite of them all, and it would really blow people's minds to get this game on the N64 Classic because of the fact that it's rated M. Like that would limit how they sold the N64 Classic. Like they couldn't sell it to someone who wasn't 17 or whatever. Like, it doesn't even seem like there was that many M-rated games on N64. I can't really remember, but this is one of the few, and it's one of my favorite. And that's all I really got to say today, guys. I might do a part 2 of this video because there's a bunch of N64 games that I love. Like I said, I grew up on this platform and the GameCube. Like, I was still a kid when both of those released, and I have so many favorite games on them that I would love to jump into one day. I would love to start a podcast talking about N64 and GameCube, honestly. Tell me if that's something you're interested in. But yeah, that's all I really got to say. Let me know your N64 favorites down in the bottom in the comments. And also let me know what games you would actually expect Nintendo to put on this thing. Like, do you think it would be 10 games, 20 games, 30 games? I'm guesstimating around 20 games on this platform. And I would love if they did like a $100 bundle that came with 4 controllers, because that would just make so much sense. Like, that would be freaking awesome. But yeah, like I said, let me know in the comments. I'm Brett Medlock. I will talk to you guys later.
My number's 48, 25 years old, really like the roof, still obsessed with blood.